Hi, Jeff. Thanks for joining me to talk about another news story. In this case, we're going to be talking about a recent transaction in New York around a high value office property. This was New York's largest office landlord announced that it had sold an almost 50% interest in 245 Park Avenue at a gross asset valuation of $2 billion. They mentioned that they're seeing strong demand from tenants and investors for high quality office properties located in highly commutable areas. An analyst noted from Barclays that this was an unambiguously positive signal for well-located, high-quality office assets like 245 Park. This represented the transaction price a slight discount that was paid to acquire the building in 2017. But so we're really seeing in this case a office property that is characterized as being very high quality, a premier location, very commutable, as having actually held up in its value pretty well, despite all the very negative stories we've been hearing about office.
Yeah, anecdotally, I'd tell you, I recently had a conversation with a banker who tried to tell me that that office is a dead asset class, which I laughed and couldn't help but correct him and say it's not dead, it's just changed some. In the mind of Main Street and the banks, because of COVID, they think it's somehow radically changed. It hasn't radically changed. Large corporations are requiring their employees come back to the office. They've got to have somewhere to go. They've got to have space to spread out, space to accommodate their employees because they need their efficiency. I think this is a pretty good indicator that office, and I don't want to say that all office in all areas is the greatest asset. It's not. But I can say that, office that's well located, easily or able to be commuted to easily, that can suit what tenants needs and has the amenities is still a good investment. It's not dead. It's just changing.
Yeah, I think also when we talk about our portfolio, we acquired office in Miami. We acquired office in Savannah. Those are metros that are doing very well. And unfortunately, I think after '08, people started thinking about real estate as almost this monolithic asset class across everything, just because you saw a really abnormal synchronization, and it just isn't. That's not normal. We're seeing different classes perform differently. We're seeing different metros perform differently, and I think while it's an easy story to write of there's blood in the streets and everything's a disaster and office is horrible and it's never coming back. It's a gross oversimplification.
Yeah.
There's certainly metros and categories that are really having problems. And we're going to separately be talking about a news story about San Francisco, which really is having some pretty serious problems. But I think this example from New York is a metro that, despite having some struggles, this is an example that some types of office are holding up really well, and kind of goes to your point that the not everything has changed. Employees are still going to the office. Major corporations are still
Right.
expecting them to be there. I think
Well,
this is
you're being nice. Expecting is a nice way of saying demanding that they be
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And let's the other side too is back to office isn't dead. It's changing. Is the prospect of there's only so many large corporations that need extensively large space. There's a lot of small businesses, and this country is still made up of a lot of small businesses that need space, need places to operate out of.
So I think this just kind of goes to, while journalists can kind of paint things with a very broad brush and manage to sell articles or clicks or whatever, as an investor, you're going to have to be much more meticulous, and you're going to have to actually look at what's the metro, what's the class, what's the individual building. You're going to have to do all that work because not everything is just going to be correlated and go in the same direction. You're going to see what we're seeing here of, a market like a Miami doing very well, a market like New York in certain categories showing stabilizations, and then San Francisco right now would be an example of a market that just seems to be imploding. at the moment. But you really have to look at things on a case by case basis, and not just say, um, COVID came, remote work came, and now office is no longer investable. It is just untrue.
Well, and just to add one other side, because you mentioned San Francisco, municipal regulations and implications have a tendency to cause investors to go the opposite way. They're looking for a good investment, not somebody that's going to come in and take their investment away from them because of regulation.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree, and I think we'll be getting into that story imminently. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Great. Thanks.